Hey folks, just me, your friendly neighborhood Walter Shepard. This is a follow-up video to the flat Earth one, and I almost was hoping not to get that kind of response, but at the same time, I expected to get that kind of response. I didn't realize. Because based on the Christian audience or the Christian friends that I have on Facebook, the majority of them are not flat earthers. I would say I'm not saying that's the way it is on Facebook. I'm sure it's probably about half and half out of the total Facebook audience of Christians. Well, probably about a third, because I've talked to a lot of Christians that hadn't even heard about the flat Earth thing. For them, they didn't even realize that some people were promoting that particular theory. So I would say a third are a third of the Christians, and I'm just guessing, on Facebook. A third would be flat earthers, and a third would not be flat earthers, and a third would be more or less neutral, having not even heard of it. So when I came to the comments on this particular YouTube avenue, this venue, I found a different gauge for Christians. Very few of them had not even heard of it. And more or less, I would say about 60% of the people that have commented so far and messaged so far are not flat earthers, and the rest would be flat earthers. I was surprised how many flat earthers have subscribed to this channel, especially since you know that I'm mainly on about not just the tribulation, but what comes after that, mainly what comes after the dark times. And that would be the 1,000 years of peace, the millennial kingdom of Jesus. And from what I've learned, based on the prophets of the Old Testament, they speak about the coming new earth, the 1,000 years of peace, and how much better the conditions are going to be. And so we know that there is going to be a new earth when Jesus comes down after the tribulation period, sets up a new kingdom, and there will be a small group of people that survive the change, and that's what I'm talking about, is the apocalypse. If you want to call it that, even though the apocalypse means the revelation of the truth being Jesus Christ. He is the whole center of God's plan for time and the earth. And the apocalypse happens after Armageddon, the battle at Armageddon. Society has just changed those two words, the meaning of those two words. So, biblically speaking, Armageddon is the final battle when Jesus comes down with all the angels and destroys the one world army, as well as all the demons and fallen angels and Nephilim, and binds them up for the 1,000 years. And that takes place in Israel, in the valley of Har-Megiddo, which is where we get the word Armageddon. So the Battle of Armageddon is Jesus and man clashing, and of course Jesus winning. And then the apocalypse is the great revelation that Jesus has been the center of everything. So he's come down to rule the earth. But between the last day of tribulation and the first day of the 1,000 years of peace, the prophets of old have told us that the sun is going to burn 7 times brighter, and the moon will shine 7 times brighter. And we know scientifically it's because the sun's rays reflect off the moon and whatnot. So anyway, since '96, what I've seen in in my visions is that the sun itself is going to change. Science can only guess at really how old the sun is, and they can only really guess at how long it's going to last. But according to Bible prophecy, the sun will be going through a number of changes. I'm sure during the tribulation it's going to start burning hotter, so it's going to start changing. And then just before the 1,000 years of peace is when it starts to burn 7 times brighter, 7 times hotter. And what I've seen in the vision is there's going to be a sudden expanse of the sun, and when it changes, it'll start burning brighter, but the initial expanse will send out a shock wave, and the shock wave is what's going to hit the earth itself, and it's going to shake up everything sinful mankind has built. It's going to knock it down and turn it to rubble, and it'll change all the continents too. All the continents are going to be shifting, and all the ocean floors are going to be coming up. Everything's going to be changing. And then following the shock wave from the new sun would be the heat wave. And the heat wave is what burns everything. It burns all the pollution. It burns all the nuclear radiation. And it burns all the trees and all the vegetation. So the new earth will start over again, brand new. And then out of that, there will be about 5,000 people that did not take the mark of the beast. They will survive, and that particular line of people will be who grows up during the 1,000 years of peace that you servants of the Lord will be guiding. And so I didn't really want to tie in a response to the new earth or to the flat earthers, but that's basically what it turned into. So in order for the 1,000 years of peace, as the Bible describes in the prophets, in the books of the prophets, the model that the flat earth has in terms of the sun and the moon, it just doesn't fit how the new earth is going to change, how we're going to get new heavens and new earth. If the flat earthers, I think they need to take into account, into their theory, how the earth and the heavens, the new heavens and the new earth, how that's going to be affected by the flat earth model. And then again, after the 1,000 years of peace, there will yet be again another new heavens and new earth, and that's when God melds the infinite, eternal dimensions of heaven with our time-space universe. And he takes that heavenly city outside of heaven and he puts it onto the face of the earth. And then there's going to be some of his purifying fire, and it'll go out and it'll purify the earth, and it'll change the course of the whole universe. And so I think the flat earthers need to take that into account as well. If the earth is really square-shaped, a square-shaped flatness, or whether it's a disc-shaped flatness and there's a dome over it, I think the flat earthers need to take that into account on how that can be explained with Bible prophecy. How the prophets say the sun is going to burn 7 times brighter. And again, I guess I just got to get back into it. For 3 years, I've been looking into this whole flat Earth thing, this whole flat Earth theory. I've seen so many videos, and I've read so much about it. Because when it first showed up 3 years ago, I thought it was kind of neat. I was almost convinced, but then I watched more and more videos. And there were just too many holes for it to actually work. The greatest hole that I can see is, okay, for instance, let's say this is the Earth, right? And let's say North America is right here, right? and so everything's flat. And so if someone was really diligent about proving the flat earth theory, they would send up a GoPro camera, because a lot of people have sent up GoPro cameras into orbit. But if some flat earther was really diligent about it, they could send up a GoPro camera and take photographs of the edge of the disk. But so far, there is no photographic proof that Earth has edges around it and a dome over top of it. And it could be easily done. The whole flat Earth thing, the revival of the whole flat Earth thing has been going around for 5 years now, and so far none of them have done to do that. And I would just challenge someone to do that, is to take a picture of the edges of the Earth, so that way we could prove that it was flat. If you could show photographic proof that it was flat, then obviously I would believe it. And also the flat Earth theory says that the sun itself orbits around the Earth, which again doesn't make sense, because with the flat Earth theory they need a smaller sun, and their sun of the flat Earth, it doesn't spread out light in all directions. It spreads out light like a flashlight that goes around the Earth, and that's how they create night and day. And the sun orbiting around a dome wouldn't account for the crescents in the moon. Somebody had commented that, and I hadn't realized that before, but that totally makes sense. Where does a half moon come from? Where does a three-quarter moon come from? If the sun doesn't go behind the Earth and cause the shadow. Again, like I said, flat Earth sounds plausible, but there are still way too many holes. And I could go into other things about that too. If you were on Facebook, you'd be getting a lot of comments in the form of memes and challenging the flat earthers to answer questions, which they never do answer. They always they always get upset, and then they divide, and that's just what the New World Order wants. I believe that's why they created it, is that they just want to divide Christians. They want Christians to fight against each other and to show the world that Christians are not united. And so Christians end up dividing over what really is a secondary issue. It has nothing to do with saving the lost and hurting. It has nothing to do with spreading the gospel. It has nothing to do with fulfilling the Great Commission. All that is just one interpretation of a few passages in the Bible that doesn't mean anything. Jesus is not going to reward people for being a flat earther or for being a non-flat earther or for viewing those verses in that way, because those verses, as interesting as they are, they don't do anything to get people into heaven. They do nothing to help the lost and the hurting. They do nothing to show the love of Jesus. They do nothing to bring God glory. They're just one way of reading and interpreting the Bible. And again, if you're a flat earther, I've been doing this I've been checking this out for 3 years now. And if you're going to interpret the Bible, go back to the original Hebrew language and not just an English translation. That way you will know for sure. Okay, anyway, that's it. This is kind of a talk, a follow-up response to the whole flat earth thing, while introducing an upcoming video, which will be more on the 1,000 years of peace and the new earth that's coming, and how great the prophets of old say it's going to be. Okay, that's it. It's getting late. I should be getting ready for sleep now. So take care, stay in prayer. We'll see you in Jesus' kingdom somewhere over there, or we'll see you somewhere up in the air. Alrighty, remember, Jesus rules.